I arrived at dawn, engine humming beneath my boots, never imagining that the gilded gates of Maple Grove Estates would soon witness the unraveling of its self-appointed arbiter. The azalea hedges glowed pink in the morning light as I stepped onto the manicured sidewalk, radio clipped to my belt, mind already choreographing the day's patrol. But there was something off. An urgent text blinking on my phone. Board meeting at 9. You're late. Karen. I glanced at the clock. 9:02. A pang of irritation flared, but duty called me to the west side, where a vandalized streetlight awaited my inspection. As police chief of nearby Oak Harbor, I'd thought I'd seen it all until that text summoned me here, to the very heart of entitlement. Inside the living room, Karen stood by a bay window, phone pressed to her ear, as if mid-trial testimony. My sergeant looked at me, confusion etched on his face. Ma'am, we received a burglary call here. Karen swiveled, eyes narrowing. Absolutely. There's an intruder impersonating a police chief. He trespassed, refused to identify himself, and he stole our meeting quorum. She lurched forward, breath trembling. Behind her, a large oak plaque Maple Grove hung crooked. Beside it lay a blank roll of tape, scuff marks on the floor. My sergeant glanced at me. Chief. I stepped forward, voice calm. There's been a misunderstanding. I'm Police Chief Alan Jenkins of Oak Harbor PD. Karen's lips twisted. Declaration drowning in nepotism, I bet. We demand you be held accountable. I nodded to my sergeant. Check her call records. Officers swarmed the foyer. While they confirmed everything, Karen paced, lip quivering, declaring to the neighbors who'd gathered. He's above the law. He thinks he's untouchable. A stray reporter's camera phone flashed. A viral moment was brewing. My face morphed from bemusement to resolve. Ladies and gentlemen, I called, hands raised. This is entirely her doina false report. I was 2 minutes late to a voluntary HOA gathering. That is all. A hush fell, murmurs rippled. Then a twist. From the crowd, a lanky teenager stepped forward, Karen's son, Lucas. His eyes teared. Mom, he whispered. He stayed to help Mr. Dawson when his car broke down. I crouched. Lucas, your mom called for police backup instead of asking her son because? His shoulders shook. Because she hates me helping Dad more than her. A shockwave of empathy rippled through assembled homeowners. The reporter lowered her phone, sensing the real story. With that, I guided the sergeant to the windowed study to review Karen's HOA manual, where she'd scrawled amendments in crimson ink. Penalties for tardiness, fines for non-compliance, fees for insulting board members. My sergeant's eyes widened. Chief, she amended bylaws unilaterally. These rules aren't even ratified. I turned to the crowd. Fellow residents, meet your self-appointed tyrant. Gasps exploded. The toddlers playing tag froze mid-chase. Elderly Mr. Patel clutched his chest. Even the mail carrier halted, jaw agape. I felt the weight of leadership, a promise to uphold justice. Report her for filing a false police report, I directed. 2 officers scribbled notes. Karen's face blanched. Her defiance wavered. She tried one last gambit. You can't do this. I have authority. A pathetic shriek. Then, as the sergeant on her phone confirmed charges, her knees buckled. She sank into the velvet armchair, head in hands, tears soaking her blouse. I knelt before her. Karen Galloway, you are under investigation for false reporting, abuse of HOA powers, and perjury. The handcuffs glinted. Even then she whispered, it's not fair. I stood, heart heavy but steeled by duty. Fairness isn't about comfort, it's about truth. Justice unfolded swiftly. At the county courthouse, Karen's amended bylaws were declared void. Her position vacated. Neighbors elected a new board, Lucas included. In celebration, I attended the next HOA meeting. Applause greeting my entrance. Karen, banned from HOA property for 6 months, watched from afar, framed by her crooked porch. I addressed the gathering. Let this be a lesson. No oni, no matter how pompous, stands above the law. Voices cheered. Lucas approached, shy grin flickering. Thanks, Chief. I ruffled his hair. You did good. Weeks later, Maple Grove's new newsletter ran a headline. Police Chief saves HOA from tyranny. Beneath it, my photo arms crossed, smile genuine. I chuckled each time I passed the wooden sign now planted at the entrance. Chief's Justice. As radio calls crackled in my pocket, I felt a quiet pride that in my town, justice was more than a badge. It was a promise. So share your thoughts. Was I right to enforce the law? Or should HOA disputes stay private? Let me know right or wrong. The storm of headlines had barely settled when the real work began, the hard, unglamorous labor of rebuilding trust. In the days that followed the meeting, I returned to Maple Grove not in uniform but in plain clothes, walking quietly among sunlit lawns and trimmed hedges, greeting neighbors by name. I brought Emma Patel fresh cookies from her bakery, and we shared a laugh over her tale of spotting Karen's empty chair in the meeting hall. I listened as Mr. Dawson described how, after I helped him fix his car, he'd felt seen for the first time since his wife's passing. Lucas hovered nearby, proud to introduce me as our hero, though I insisted I'd done only what justice demanded. Yet every nod and every handshake reminded me that leadership runs deeper than badge-sit, lives in every act of kindness that follows a crisis. Meanwhile, the county prosecutor's office moved swiftly. Karen Galloway was indicted on charges of filing a false police report and abuse of authority. The courtroom was packed the day her trial began. I sat in the back row, shoulder to shoulder with families whose pleas for fair treatment had been stifled by her heavy-handed fines and secret amendments. As the prosecutor laid out evidence, phone records, tampered bylaws, sworn statements from neighbors, a hush fell over the spectators. Karen, once so confident, shrank in her seat, fingers twisting the hem of her blouse. Then Lucas stood, summoned by the judge, and testified of the fear he felt when his mother's wrath turned on him for helping his father. His voice quivered, but he spoke of the day I knelt beside him, offered reassurance, and reminded him that truth and compassion matter more than power. A murmur passed through the room. Some wiped tears, others clenched their jaws. When closing arguments echoed in the marbled chamber, the jury deliberated for less than an hour before returning a verdict of guilty on all counts. The gavel's fall felt like the release of a held breath. Outside, Lucas rushed to hug me, tears of relief streaming down his cheeks. His face glowed with gratitude, and for a moment I saw that beneath Karen's fierce exterior lay a terrified mother who had lost her way. Justice had spoken, but mercy still had a role. At sentencing, the judge ordered community service at the local youth center, a chance for Karen to rebuild rather than retreat. He mandated restitution, refunding every penny she'd extorted from neighbors under false threats. And he required her to attend counseling sessions, to learn empathy and accountability. As the courtroom emptied, I paused at the exit. Karen stood alone, shoulders stooped, eyes downcast. I approached quietly. "Karen," I said softly, "you still have a chance to make this right." She looked up, shock and shame warring in her gaze. "I don't deserve it," she whispered. I shook my head. "No one deserves grace," I offered. She nodded, a single tear trailing down her cheek. "Thank you," she breathed. "I'll try." In the weeks that followed, Maple Grove hummed with renewed spirit. Neighbors who once crossed the street to avoid Karen now greeted her with cautious nods as she scrubbed graffiti at the youth center, painted over bitter slogans she'd scrawled on benches. Children giggled as she distributed ice pops, clumsy at first, but gradually her warmth emerged, tentative apologies extended, friendships rebuilt. Lucas joined her, offering guidance, and I watched their bond heal in the spring sunlight. At the next HOA election, Karen was ineligible to run, but she volunteered behind the scenes, helping Mrs. Patel organize the annual block party. I attended in civilian clothes, joining in the laughter as neighbors danced under strings of paper lanterns. The new board, led by Lucas and 3 residents from diverse backgrounds, invited open forums and transparent voting. They scrapped punitive bylaws and replaced them with service-driven guidelines, clean-up days, community gardens, monthly check-ins for elderly homeowners. Maple Grove blossomed with sponsored cookouts, weekend workshops, and a bulletin board brimming with neighbor-to-neighbor requests and offers: lawn mowing, grocery runs, even babysitting swaps. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon in a blaze of tangerine and violet, I walked the quiet lanes, reflecting on the journey from conflict to community. A soft breeze carried laughter from open windows and the distant strum of a guitar. I paused at the wooden sign planted months earlier, "Chief's Justice." Its letters, once sharp and defiant, had softened with time. Beneath it, someone had added in chalk, "Justice with heart." I smiled, tracing the words with a fingertip. That phrase captured everything I'd hoped to achieve, that the rule of law, when wielded with compassion, can heal wounds deeper than any court decree. Back at home, Lucas stopped by the station, his uniform small on his teenage frame but his pride unmistakable. "Chief," he said, "thank you for everything. You saved my mom and our neighborhood." I lifted his chin, smiling warmly. "You saved your mom, Lucas. You reminded her what she almost forgot, that community isn't about rules. It's about people." He grinned, tossing me a crisp police badge sticker he designed with the words, "Community Guardian." I pinned it to my jacket that day, a symbol of the promise we all share. Months later, when the local news ran a human interest piece on Maple Grove's transformation, they showed footage of residents volunteering side by side, including Karen, sleeves rolled up, laughing as she planted flowers. The anchor closed with a simple reflection. Justice done right can restore not just order, but hope. The segment ended and I turned off the TV, heart full. The journey had tested every principle I held dear: truth, fairness, mercy, but out of the turmoil grew something stronger than consensus: genuine connection. And in that connection lay the true spirit of justice. So now I turn to you. When conflict threatens to divide, is it enough to simply enforce rules, or must we also foster understanding? Share your thoughts, right or wrong.